NVIDIA has just launched the fourth model of its GeForce 40 series, the RTX 4070. It's positioned as a mid-range GPU for playing the most demanding games at 1440p and is close to a third of the price of the mighty 4090. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the 4070, go through its specs and benchmark it in multiple games so that you can see just how powerful it is when upgrading your PC or buying a next-gen gaming system from 3XS Systems. Now, if you want us to make more videos like this about new hardware, do make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below and leave us a comment. Before we dive into the specs and benchmarks though, it's worth doing a quick recap of the new Ada Lovelace architecture that the 4070 and the other 40 series GPUs are based on. Ada introduces several new techniques and technologies, most notably DLSS 3, which is capable of generating all new frames to massively speed up CPU-limited games. There's also the opacity micromap engine, which speeds up ray tracing hit-and-miss calculations. Meanwhile, the displaced micromesh engine speeds up building and storing BVH data. And finally, shader execution reordering enables Ada GPUs to reorder shader instructions into object order to speed up rendering. For more information on these features, check out our deep dive into the Ada architecture in our 4090 video, which we put a link to in the description below. So now that we've highlighted the principal new features and technologies introduced by the Ada architecture, let's take a closer look at the 4070, codenamed AD104. For starters, it's armed with 5,888 CUDA cores, 184 Tensor cores and 46 RT cores, which is 64% fewer cores than the mighty 4090, but it does operate at a very similar frequency, boosting up to 2.48 GHz. It also has much less memory too, being equipped with 12 GB of GDDR6X. And this means the 4070 has a recommended list price of £589, so considerably cheaper than any of the 40 series GPUs. In terms of power, the 4070 requires at least a 650 watt PSU, either two via traditional 8-pin PCIe cables or a single new 16-pin PCIe 5 cable. Now, we put the 4070 through its paces up against a variety of other graphics cards. As the 4070 is a mid-range graphics card, all the benchmarks will run at the highest quality settings, with all the eye candy dialed up to the max at 2560 by 1440. We also tested at 4K, although this isn't the target resolution for this sort of card. All of the cards were tested with the latest GPU drivers using a fresh install of Windows 11 Home in one of our 3XS gaming PCs with the following specs. An Intel Core i9-13900K, Asus ROG Maximus Z790 Hero motherboard, a Corsair H150i RGB Pro XT, 32GB of Corsair Dominator Platinum DDR5 5600 MHz memory, and a 2TB Samsung 980 Pro SSD. Now, the action RPG Cyberpunk 2077 is a challenging game to run with ray tracing enabled at 1440p, with the 4070 just about able to achieve a smooth frame rate if you enable DLSS 2. Alternatively, you could just play the game in rasterized mode at a higher frame rate. No graphics card is fast enough to play Cyberpunk 2077 natively at 4K with ray tracing enabled, and even with DLSS 2 enabled, the 4070 still struggles with 54 FPS. This really does go to show that the 4070 is a 1440p card and not at its best at 4K. The open-world shooter Far Cry 6 does support gorgeous ray-traced graphics, but not DLSS. The 4070 really shined in these games with a buttery smooth 113 FPS. However, when we upped the resolution to 4K, the 4070 once again struggled. 63 FPS is playable, but it doesn't leave much margin for frame drops in intense action sequences. In Metro Exodus at 1440p, the new 4070 turned in a just about playable frame rate of 57 FPS with ray tracing, speeding up to a more comfortable 70 FPS with DLSS enabled. The 4070 really struggled with Metro at 4K, as you'd need to drop down the quality settings a fair bit to achieve a smooth frame rate. We'd recommend playing this game at 1440p. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1440p, all the cards tested exceeded a smooth 60 FPS average frame rate, the minimum required for smooth gameplay. The 4070 clocked up 72 FPS with ray tracing enabled, speeding up to 110 FPS with DLSS 2 switched on. Upping the resolution to 4K makes Shadow of the Tomb Raider only playable with ray tracing on the 4070 if you turn on DLSS 2. We also ran the synthetic benchmark 3D Mark Timespy on all the graphics cards. Now, you should always take the results of synthetic benchmarks with a pinch of salt compared to real games, but in this instance, the 4070's near identical performance to the 3080 aligns with what we saw in the 4 real games that we benchmarked earlier in this video. The Port Royal version of 3D Mark adds in ray tracing support, so it has a lot more eye candy to feast your eyes on. Once again, the 4070 proved to be basically the same speed as the older 3080. And as you'd expect, the 4070 draws a lot less power than other 40 series GPUs when gaming, and a full 133 watts less than the similarly performing 3080. Even so, it still needs a 650 watt PSU or greater. So in conclusion, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 40 series has set the bar very high for performance in rasterized and ray traced games and added a whole new feature, frame generation, in the form of DLSS 3 to further improve performance. The latest addition to the range, the 4070, is an aggressively priced mid-range model which makes light work of games at 1440p, providing very similar performance to the older 3080 at a lower price. It's also far more power efficient than the 3080, drawing 133 watt less when gaming. A very welcome stat considering the high cost of electricity right now. And finally, the 4070 is even capable of giving 4K a go in some games, especially if there's DLSS 3 support. So why not let us know in the comments section below what you think of the new 4070? Then head on over to the Scan website using the links in the description to check out the full range of graphics cards and gaming PCs from 3XS Systems with the 4070 built right in. Speaking of building, make sure to check out the video which we've linked, which shows one of our expert 3XS Systems engineers assembling a 4070 gaming PC.